Hello everybody, welcome back to another session of the Hopry. My name is still Mark Starr, believe it or not, and today is Friday, so we are going to be wrapping up our Kuhnhenn Brewery Week. And you know, I got to tell you, it's been a pretty fascinating week for me. You know, before I started this, I really knew very little about Kuhnhenn Brewing Company, and that's, you know, mainly because their beer is so hard to get. They are a smaller brewery, so, you know, not a whole lot of information out there. So I really am glad that I was able to get these beers and share them with you and hopefully, you know, give them a little bit of exposure. Who knows, maybe one day, you know, we'll be able to get these in more states. It's hard to say. But anyway, just to do a very quick recap, on Monday we looked at the Mayhem, which was a very good beer. Wednesday we looked at the Old Bruin, which was a sour cherry ale, clocked in at 11.5%, also a very good beer. And today we're going to wrap it up with their beer called Fourth Dementia. And this is an old ale. This is from their 2009 run. And now, you know, in looking up traditional ale or old ale, you'll probably read that it's kind of a catch-all phrase that that we use for beers that really aren't specifically, maybe they don't always have such a specific style, so they kind of just go into this bigger umbrella. But old ales are traditionally, at least by today's standards, a little bit stronger of a beer. And this one, you know, along with the rest of their beers, is no exception. In fact, it says right here on the label that this one clocks in at 12.5%. So this is going to be a pretty big beer. I have not seen a whole lot of head come off of many of their beers. In fact, a while back when I did their Raspberry Eisbock, that thing, I mean, it was kind of a sweet mess. I mean, it wasn't disgusting, but I got to tell you, man, that thing was so sweet that it was just too much for my palate, I think. These beers have been a lot more enjoyable for me. While they still have the high ABV, you know, they do have a lot more going on in terms of bitterness, you know, that really kind of help, I guess, flatten out some of that sweetness. But anyway, I saved this one for last because it's the one that I guess I kind of looked forward to the most. I really do like those old ales, traditional ales. You know, I know Hair of the Dog brews some of the best in the country. But anyway, yeah, let's just go ahead and get this one pouring and see what happens. All right. So, kind of has about the same coloring as we saw on the Old Bruin. This one's got a lot more red tint to it though. It's not completely opaque. I can barely see through it, but what I'm getting in there is this rich, dark, mahogany and ruby red color. It's actually a very, very good looking beer. Now the head, pretty traditional for the beers that I've had by them. Kind of a, you know, light tan color. The bubbles aren't too big, they're not too tight, so it's not, you know, it's not real frothy, but I don't think it's like a soda either. But yeah, I really like the way that one looks. Good, nice red, ruby red tint right around the edges when you, you know, kind of hold it up to the light. But anyway, let me go ahead and get the nostrils down in there and see what's going on. Wow, I really like the way this one smells. Just like immediately I like the way it smells. There's a really nice fruity component to this, almost like a really intense, ripe raspberry smell. There's also a little bit of caramel, you know, that's coming from the malts. Maybe even some roses. I mean, I really like how red this beer smells. It really smells like raspberries and roses and light caramel. Very, very nice nose. Good amount of bitterness, man. I mean, it's just, it's I'm not going to say extremely bitter, but it's pretty bitter. The taste is not so similar to the way it smells, oddly enough. I think the nose is just exceptional on this beer. It's going to get rated pretty high just for that alone. There is a bit of bittersweet chocolate, lots of bitterness. The caramel component is really kind of, I guess, in the background on this one. I'm really hit mostly with bitterness. That's, and that's not something that you normally get from a beer like this, where you taste bitterness and then you get the flavors behind that. It's usually, oh, it tastes like chocolate and bitter, or it tastes like prunes and bitter. But the bitterness on this one is really at the forefront. And I think that's kind of interesting, to be honest with you. Maybe just a hint of coffee bitterness. I'm not saying that it really tastes like coffee, but there's definitely some darkness going on in here. So I guess recapping in my head, I do get a little bit of the intense raspberry. I do get some coffee bitterness, maybe just the essence of chocolate, not so much the taste of chocolate, but the essence of chocolate. And I do get a little bit of that sweetness. Really a nice complex beer. I know I've said that about all of their beers, but I mean, the Kuhnhenn brothers are really known for brewing small batches of beer and making them all really high in alcohol. I know that doesn't, automatically mean that they're going to be complex, but I'm finding that a lot of their beers, the first sip that you take, you're like, yeah, this is pretty good, and the second one you take, you're like, okay, I'm starting to like it. Third, fourth, fifth sip, your palate really kind of starts to adjust to kind of the mouthfeel of the beer. And that's when the flavors, I think, really kind of start to slowly unfold. I really like this beer a lot. I think this might be the best one I've had this week. In fact, they really kind of go in order for me. This is, great, greater, greatest. Which, I'll admit, when I sit down to review beers like this and I'm going to look at an entire week, I either go by, a light beer into the medium body beers into the stouts, or I kind of order them in the way that I think I'm going to like them. And I actually don't always do that correctly, but this week I think I did. I really think I saved the best one for last. This fourth Dementia is not easily the best one. That would mean that the other two aren't that great, but I like this one the most. Really on the back of my throat too, I'm getting this sort of itchy alcohol burn on it. It's that alcohol combined with that, insane amount of bitterness that really just kind of hits you in the back of your throat. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, but I really do enjoy this one. Again, it's really got that intense raspberry bitterness with a little bit of chocolate and coffee in there. Not like a stout, but in a different sort of way. I'm referring more to the bitterness than I am the actual flavors, but really an enjoyable beer. So, well, I'm going to wrap up this week of Kuhnhenn, and I'm going to go upstairs and do some chillaxing and enjoy my weekend, and hope you guys will come back next week. And we will review some more beers. All right. Well, thank you for coming back. My name is Mark Starr, thehopry.com or twitter.com/thehopry. Go there. We'll see you later. Bye.